Hey guys, my name is Robbie. I'm a teacher at Erin School of English, and in this lesson I'm going to talk to you about prepositions. Alright, so we're going to look at prepositions of place, prepositions of time, and also later in the lesson we're going to look at dependent prepositions. Let's go! So first we'll talk about prepositions of place. Now our three most important prepositions of place in English are in, on, and at. Let's go. So first, in. We use in to talk about enclosed spaces. So think about places that are surrounded by something, or where you can see the edge. We also use in to talk about countries and cities. Let's look at some examples. So in my office, right now I'm sitting in my office. An office, it's a room, it's got 4 walls. She can be in her bedroom. Once again, a room, an enclosed space. Something can be in my bag. Okay, my book is in my bag. I live in Dublin. Dublin is a city, and Dublin is the biggest city in Ireland. Okay. Next, we have on. Now we use on to talk about surfaces or things that can be thought of as a surface. For example, on the wall, so there are some pictures on the wall. On the floor, my bag is on the floor. On the roof, the chimney is on the roof. And on the ceiling, there are some lights on the ceiling. Now just remember, when we talk about roof, we're talking about outside the top of the building. Ceiling, we're talking about inside the top of the room. And another important point here with on, we use on to talk about most forms of transport. So you can be on a bus, on a plane, on a boat, on a train, on a bike. However, we do not use on to talk about cars or taxis. For these two forms of transport, we use the preposition in. So he's on the bus, she's in her car. I'm on a train, you're in a taxi. And finally, we have at. Now at we use for exact or specific locations. For example, you can be at the supermarket doing the shopping. You can be at the bank withdrawing some money. You can also be at the cinema. She's at the cinema watching a movie. Right now I'm at my desk. Okay, it's a specific or exact location. You can also be at work. And finally, you can be at home. Now just have a look at the first 3 examples here. At the supermarket, at the bank, at the cinema. Now what do all these 3 examples have in common? They're all places around the town. So usually when we talk about a place you can find around the town, we would use at the bank, at the cinema, at the post office. And just one more important point about at. You can be at the cinema, but we could also say in the cinema. So the only difference is, if we say my friend is at the cinema, this means she could be in the building, but she could also be outside the cinema. She's just at this location. If I say she's in the cinema, then we know we're talking about in the building, because remember, we use in to talk about enclosed spaces. Okay, let's do a little bit of practice. See, here I've got 6 sentences for you guys. Focus on the place used in each sentence and see if you can remember which preposition to use in each blank space. So number 1, I'll meet you the supermarket. So the supermarket, it's an exact specific location. It's also a place around the town. So the correct preposition is at. Next up, she's the bathroom. So remember, bathroom. It's a room, it's got 4 walls, it's an enclosed space. So the preposition we use here is in. Number 3, I think I left my wallet home. Can you remember? For home, we use at. Number 4, I'll call you when I'm the bus. So remember our rule here. For forms of transport, we use on, unless we're talking about a car or a taxi, in which case we use in. Number 5, your house has such beautiful pictures. The wall. So the wall, it's a type of surface, and for surfaces we use on. And finally, I've lived Ireland for 6 years. So Ireland, it's a country, and for countries and cities, the preposition we use is in. Very good. Okay, just some important points to remember before we move on. We use at for exact or specific locations. Also, think about places around the town. At the bank, at the cinema, at the museum, at the post office, etc. We use in for enclosed locations. So places with 4 walls, like a room, or places where you can see the edge. We also use in for countries and cities. And finally, we use on for surfaces and also forms of transport, except for cars and taxis. Great. Okay, next we're going to look at prepositions of time. And once again, our 3 most important prepositions of time are in, on, and at. So some really small words, but very, very important and very commonly used words in English. So let's start with in. We use in to talk about months, seasons, years, and also different times of the day. And another important point here, we don't use in for night. So we'll have a look at the preposition we use with night a little bit later. So in we use for times of the day, but not for night. So let's look at some examples. In March, it's John's birthday in March. So March is a month. In summer, the weather gets very warm. In summer, summer is a season. In 2018, or we can also say in 2018. So for years, once again, we use in. In the morning, so here we have an example of a time of day. We could also say in the evening, in the afternoon. These are all times of day, so we use the preposition in. Next, we have on. So on we use for days and dates. Some examples. On Monday, I always go to work on Monday. On the 20th of April, she's going on holiday. On the 20th of April. The 20th of April is an example of a date. on Christmas Day. So Christmas Day, an example of a day. Once again, we use on. You could also say on Easter Sunday. And another point here, in American English, they use on to talk about the weekend. Now, in British English, it's a little bit different, and I'll show you an example in a couple of minutes. But American English, you could say they play football on the weekend. Finally, we have at. So for at, we use times, but times on the clock, okay? We also use at for festival periods, night, and in British English, we use at to talk about the weekend. So in American English, on the weekend, in British English, at the weekend. So some examples. At 10 a.m. I have breakfast at 10 a.m. This is a time on the clock. Another example, at 6 o'clock. We have dinner at 6 o'clock. At 2:30. Class finishes at 2:30. So these are all times on the clock. So we use the preposition at. At Easter. Now, Easter is an example of a festival period. Now, earlier in the video, we looked at using on for days. So we could say on Easter Sunday, but if we want to talk about the festival period, we just say at Easter. It's the same. On Christmas Day, at Christmas. And we also say at night. So you might remember earlier, we looked at using in for times of the day, in the morning, in the evening, in the afternoon, but for night we say at night. And finally, once again, in British English, we say at the weekend. Okay, another important point about prepositions of time. We do not use in, on, and at before the words last, next, this, or every. So for example, I'll see you next Wednesday, not I'll see you on next Wednesday. So when we use these words, last, next, this, every, we do not need to use the preposition. They got married last July, not they got married in last July. If I said in last July or on next Wednesday, it's actually grammatically incorrect. And one more point here about these prepositions of time. In spoken English, we often leave out on before days. So for example, you can say, I don't work on Sundays, but you can also say, I don't work Sundays. Both are completely correct. The only difference is the second example here, I don't work Sundays, just sounds a little bit more informal. So it's more commonly used in spoken English. Okay, great. So another little bit of practice for you guys. Once again, some sentences here. This time we're focusing on time. See if you can remember the correct preposition to use in each blank space. Is it in, on, or at? So number one, I'll meet you 5 p.m. So 5 p.m., it's a time on the clock. So the preposition we need to use here is at. Very good. Wednesday. Now Wednesday, it's a day, and for days we use on. Excellent. Okay, number two. I'm going on holiday July. So can you remember July? It's a month, so we use in. Very, very good. Number three. Jake and Sally were both born 1990. So here we have a year. And for years, the preposition we need to use is, once again, in. They were born in 1990. Number four. What's the first thing you do the morning? So here we've got an example of a time of day. The morning, the afternoon, the evening, for all of these we use, once again, it's in. Number 5, I usually go to bed 11:30. So this time we've got a time on the clock, and like we saw before, for times on the clock, the preposition we need to use is at. Number 6, the World Cup final was played 15th July 2018. So what we have here is a date. Now can you remember? For dates, the preposition we need to use is on. Very, very good. And the last example here. I'll meet my friend next Friday. So be really careful here. Friday, of course, is a day, and for days we usually use on, but we have the word next here. So when we've got next or last, we do not need to use the preposition here. So the correct answer is no preposition. All right, very, very good. So the points to remember this time, we use on for days and dates, on Monday, on Tuesday, on the 22nd of December. We use in for months, seasons, and times of the day. We use at for times, for festival periods, so at Christmas, but on Christmas Day. And we also use at in British English for the weekend. In American English, they say on the weekend. So both are correct, it just depends where you're speaking. And the final point here, we do not use in, on, or at before, last, next, this, or every. So next Friday I'll visit my friend, not on next Friday I'll visit my friend. Okay, very, very good. Have a look at these two sentences here. A, the teacher talked to class, prepositions. Or B, the teacher talked to the class about prepositions. Now, which one of these sentences sounds better? Which sentence sounds more grammatically correct? Is it A or B? If you said B, well done, you're correct. And the reason is, some verbs in English naturally take certain prepositions when they're used in a sentence. And these are called dependent prepositions. So you talk to somebody about something. So the dependent prepositions here are to and about. Now, unfortunately for these dependent prepositions, there are no fixed rules that can help us decide which preposition to use with each verbs. We just have to practice and learn them. And over time, we'll become more familiar and it will become easier and more natural. So in the next part of the lesson, we're going to take a look at verbs and dependent prepositions. So have a look here. I'm really looking forward the weekend. I need a break from work. So our verb here is looking forward. Do you guys know the missing preposition? What do you think? Looking forward to. Very, very good. So to look forward to something. Now this is when you are very, very excited about something and you can't wait. Something in the future that you're very excited for. Next up, she'll take care the puppy. She loves animals. So of course a puppy is a baby dog, and our verb here is take care. What do you think the missing preposition is here? You take care of something or someone. And of course, when you take care of something or someone, it's when you look after it. You make sure it's okay, it's safe. If it's an animal, it's fed, it's happy. So she'll take care of the puppy. Very good. Next up, the customer complained, the manager, the service. So here we've got two missing dependent prepositions. Our verb is complain. So the customer complained to the manager about the service. So you complain to someone, to a person, about something. Now, when do you complain? You complain when you're not happy about something. So maybe you're in a restaurant and you ordered some soup and the soup arrives and the soup is cold. You complain to the waiter about the soup. Here we can see a guy here, he looks very unhappy with his food, so I'm sure he's going to complain to somebody about his food. Okay, next sentence. It is important to listen the teacher during the class. So you listen to someone or something. So the dependent preposition here is to. I like to listen to music. He always listens to his parents. Another example here. Simon is addicted video games. He never stops playing them. So what's our dependent preposition this time? You are addicted to something. Addicted to. And of course, when you're addicted to something, you find it very difficult to stop doing whatever the activity is. It's often a very, very negative thing. It causes you to ignore other important areas of your life. Simon is addicted to video games. And here, he thanked her the help she gave him. He thanked her the help she gave him. So what do you think the preposition is this time? You thank someone for something. Okay? Really, really good. And the last one. I need to prepare my exam at the end of the year. So the missing preposition this time is you prepare for something. And again, when you prepare, you make sure you are ready to do it. So here we can see someone preparing for their exam, and they're preparing by studying. Great. Okay, a few important mistakes to avoid. Now, of course, certain verbs need certain prepositions, but very often non-native speakers of English actually use a preposition after a verb when no preposition is necessary. So have a look here. Answer. We do not use a preposition after answer. So he answered a very difficult question, not he answered to a very difficult question. Tell is another example of a verb where we do not use a dependent preposition. So the teacher told her students to be quiet. She didn't tell to her students. And finally, phone. So, can you phone me tonight? Not, can you phone to me tonight? And it's the same with the verbs call and ring. You call someone, you don't call to someone. You ring your friend, you don't ring to your friend. Okay, very, very good. Finally, a little bit of practice for you guys. So let's see if you can remember the correct prepositions to use here. Complete the sentences with the correct preposition to, of, about, or for, or leave a blank space if no preposition is needed. Okay, let's correct. So number one, what are you most looking forward? Can you remember? You look forward to something about the summer holidays. Number 2, do you need to prepare any exams at the moment? So you prepare for something. Very good. Number 3, have you ever complained food in a restaurant? A manager. So 2 missing prepositions this time. You complain about something, so about the food, and you complain to someone, to a manager. Number 4, which do you think is easier to take care of? Very good. Dogs or cats? And finally, number 5, what is the funniest story a friend has ever told? So be careful. Do we need a preposition this time? The verb is tell. No preposition is needed with this verb, so we leave a blank space. What's the funniest story a friend has ever told you? Excellent. So the points to remember now. Some verbs are always followed by a dependent preposition. You listen to something. You take care of someone. Unfortunately, there are no fixed rules that decide the preposition to use after each verb. So we just have to familiarize ourselves with the correct preposition. Okay, really, really good, guys. Thank you very, very much for watching. I hope you found this video useful, and I look forward to seeing you again in our next lesson. Cheers.